Hi, Chad Hymas here. Welcome to this week's Roll with Safety Tip. Welcome back. Coming to you from Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, and looking forward to visiting with all of you regarding a safety tip or a safety share that I feel very, very passionate about, and actually was enlightened upon due to a video that I watched this past week. Charlie Morecraft. If you don't know who Charlie Morecraft is, you need to go look him up. Charlie Morecraft, if you Google Remembering Charlie or look up Charlie Morecraft, just Google his name. It's on chemicals, and Charlie's a good friend of mine who was hurt at an Exxon gas plant back in New York several years ago, and he was burned over 50% of his body. And as I was watching Charlie's video this past week, it reminded me, or made me think of, chemicals that are not just at the workplace that you and I are trained on, but chemicals that are at our homes. Chemicals that have different coloration that might not be labeled, that could prevent you and I from having injuries. Gasoline tanks for lawnmowers, do we have those correctly labeled, or do we just have them marked by the red can that they're in? We actually have things that we have written down what they are. Empty containers and buckets that aren't empty anymore, do we have listed what's in those? And not just chemicals that can be damaging or burn our skin, which Charlie was burned over 50% of his body, but if we touch that stuff, like fertilizer for example, and then we don't rinse or wash, and we go to eat food, it can be very damaging to the internal organs of our body. And so some things that maybe you and I can do to prevent those injuries, and some tips that you and I can do is listen to Charlie and listen to his passion.
I drove out into the tank field of my truck, and I came back in an ambulance. And in case you've forgotten what excruciating looks like and what it looks like when you get burned over 45 to 50% of your bodies, let me show you this. And hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can see the direct line here where the scars stop. Well, this is where I had rolled up the sleeves of my flame retardant clothing, because I always thought that safety equipment was uncomfortable. But you know what's most excruciating? Is knowing that it didn't have to happen. It shouldn't have happened.
Maybe rolling down the shirt because it was uncomfortable and too hot. Maybe not so uncomfortable anymore. At home, and the chemicals. I just think that sometimes it's a little awkward, out of the ordinary, to label things. But the damage that could occur because we didn't do it would be more awkward or more uncomfortable in hindsight. So one more tip I'd like to add is that we always need to have wash bays or know where our nearest water source is so that we can get it cleaned up if we have fertilizer that gets on our hands, or chemicals from under the sink that get on our hands, or in the garage we're out working on tools and working with different chemicals that we use for equipment around the house. We need to make sure that we have rags and water in place so that we can keep ourselves clean as we work with herbicides and things out in the farms and the fields, which my boys work with all the time. I want to make sure that stuff stays off their body so that they don't get damaged and don't get rashes and don't get hurt. So let's try and avoid those chemical spills and try and take care of us. Again, check out Charlie Morecraft, listen to that guy's story. It'll pierce you to the core. It'll make you think twice about different things that you and I do, and open up our minds to the chemicals that we're exposed to so that we can prevent those accidents from occurring. Until next week, this is Chad Hymas, Roll with Safety.